Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Jacqueline King, back with another session of Spotlight on BWE Network. And today we have Dr. David Ajibade, who is going to be talking about women's health. We know that as African American and women, we have a lot of things that affect our overall health. And he's going to give some tips today on some of the things that we can do to maintain a good, healthy flow in our bodies. So without further ado, Dr. Ajibade, how are you?
I'm doing well, Dr. King. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're glad to have you. So I will turn it over to you now.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everyone. And I am excited about this topic because I think it's something that needs to be shouted from the rooftops. As we've said in past meetings, Dr. King, women are the bedrock of our society. They're the ones who raise our kids. They're the ones who tell them how it is, discipline them, ensure that they help them dream big and, go for it. Without women, this world would be without all Black women, this world would be a very, very different place. So we thank God for Black women and their place in the community. However, it seems like the Black women are at, when it comes to health, seem to be at probably the greatest risk in society. And I really feel that we need to pay attention to the risks and the threats that affect them or you all, and how best to meet those threats and meet those risks, especially when it comes to our children, our daughters, so we can raise them to be healthy and be aware of those risks and those threats, but also aware about what it takes to really strengthen them and let them really live long, healthy, meaningful lives. So I'm going to start sharing the screen now. I'm going to start with a presentation. And can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so this is about women's health. And I'm just going to start. Again, like I said, there are a lot of factors that seem to be more highly represented amongst Black women than amongst white women and the rest of the population. And I'm going to say a few things about that. But before I start with that, I'm going to talk about Blacks in general. It seems to be, now whites have their own problem, don't get me wrong, but there are specific conditions that are more highly represented amongst Blacks, not just in the US, but around the world. You go to South Africa, where you have a very strong Black community, as well as a white community. You go to the UK, you go to parts of Europe, you go to Australia, you find that when it comes to certain diseases, Blacks tend to have higher representation than whites, and in many cases, even more severe. Their conditions are more severe among Blacks than whites. I'm just going to run quickly through them. Obviously, hypertension, coronary heart disease, simply means heart disease, the blood vessels in the heart. Cancers. Black men have more prostate cancer, and they die from prostate cancer more than any other population. Whites, browns, Orientals, Black men have more. Same thing with kidney disease, obesity, the rickets, osteomalacia have to do with the bones. A lot of conditions. And with my work with brain disorders, we see a lot more strokes in Black people, and we see more autism in kids with Black people. And they've checked that around the world as well, so it's not just in the United States. So I want to zero in on the conditions that affect Black women. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but just so you can have an idea. I picked on these because these seem to be most prominent. And again, these seem to be the ones that we can do something effective about at an early stage. So heart disease is really big, strokes, diabetes, cancers. I'm going to go through them one by one. And Dr. King, please, if you have any questions, please feel free to check and ask, all right? I want to quickly mention here that there's an argument that comes up every time we talk about diseases and Black people and health conditions, and that's the socioeconomic and also the whole, shall we say, the racial bias, what is known as the racial bias, and that certainly holds a place. There have been several studies and several complaints in different quarters and different parts of the country where it says that Black women don't tend to be, are not given as good a quality of healthcare attention as white women and other populations are given. And that is certainly a fact. There's no question about it. but we do not want to get stuck at that, because in that, if we start talking about that and that only, it blinds you to the other factors that could affect Black women. And that these are factors you can do something about really quickly, personally. When it comes to the socioeconomic and the racial issues, that takes time. So I always want to say, listen, that is a factor. I'm not denying it, but please, let's look at what we can control. Let's start with cardiovascular disease. At the age of 20, I'm saying Black Americans have perhaps twice as much of these oxyants, and these are oxyants are like destructive chemicals in the body that attack the blood vessels. They have twice as much of these oxyants as in other ethnic groups, and that causes an acceleration of aging and dysfunction of the cardiovascular system. So it's not just when you get to be 40 or 50 or 60. This problem starts really, really early in life.
Let me stop you. What is an oxyant?
Yeah, so oxyants are chemicals that are produced as part of this whole metabolism. When the body burns off fuel, it produces chemicals that are supposed to be removed from the body, kind of like the way the car burns up fuel. It's the exhaust pipe. Through the exhaust pipe, you get rid of all the junk, the waste products that a car produces from burning up fuel. So the exhaust pipe pushes it out. Basically, they say the oxyants are chemicals that are produced as a result of the metabolic processes in the body that should be gotten rid of, but are not gotten rid of as quickly as they should be gotten rid of.
And how are they gotten rid of? Is that water? Okay.
So one of the things are called antioxidants. Have you heard of that before?
Yes.
Yeah. So these are like you see them as supplements. You hear about antioxidant supplements. So the body does produce antioxidants to neutralize and to get rid of them. Sometimes the body doesn't get rid of them as quickly as possible. So I'm going to explain further down how to improve your body's ability to get rid of all these oxyants by using antioxidants and other things. But drinking more water definitely helps. It's not enough, in my opinion. So there are other things that we can do in addition to that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, so Blacks develop high blood pressure earlier in life, and that with much higher blood pressure levels than whites. Nearly 42% of Black men, and more than 45% of Black women aged 20 and older have high blood pressure. That's a big problem. If we don't talk about these things, people won't be aware of them. So the problem with hypertension is that it raises your chances of having a heart attack and a stroke. And we can talk about that. I hope we can do a separate webinar on the cardiovascular system. Right now, I'm just highlighting the problem. But we're going to look maybe deeper when we get an opportunity to talk about the cardiovascular system and why it's so important. But these are pictures of heart attacks and strokes. On the right-hand side, you see what happens when there's a stroke. There's a blockage of the blood vessel, or there's a breakage in the blood vessel, and a heart attack too. There's a blockage in the heart attack. There's a blockage in the blood vessels. Strokes are a big problem. Strokes kill excuse me, let me see this. Strokes kill 4 times more 35 to 54-year-old Black Americans than white Americans. Blacks have nearly twice the first-time stroke of whites, and it's worse for women. Remember, we've been talking about Blacks in general. We're talking about women now. I want to point to this in the red. 48% compared to 44%. 48% of African-American women have some kind of cardiovascular disease that includes heart attacks, heart disease, and strokes, as opposed to 44. So that's a problem. And we're going to get to what can be done. So please just hold on. Don't switch off yet. It's not all bad news. There's always good news at the end of the tunnel, for sure. We also, Black women have 9.9% per 100 have diabetes, as opposed to 5.4 per 100 for white women. Cancers, and this is a big one, a really, really big one, especially when it comes to breast cancer. Here's what they found out. It's more prevalent among Black women. It's presented. Black women tend to have earlier diagnosis. It's more aggressive and it spreads more quickly. Patients are more likely to die, and they are less responsive to treatment. And I want to point out here too, And some people may argue against this, but most drugs, whether cardiovascular drugs or cancer drugs, are created and tested and researched with the white male in mind, not the white person. I didn't say white person. I said with the white male in mind. They're tested on white men. They are researched on white men, and they're produced primarily with the white men in mind. And I say this because even the female doctors are now coming out to complain that you are not looking at our unique, when I say our, I mean the women's unique characteristics, because we all use drugs differently. We don't all respond in the same way. And so I'm saying that to say that this may be one of the reasons why the drugs don't work as well for Black women as they would for white women when it comes to breast cancer.
Let me stop you there. So are no Black doctors, I mean, there's plenty of Black doctors, are no Black doctors doing their own studies? I mean, really?
Well, I didn't say that. I said primarily. Most of the drugs that have been made through the years have been primarily with the white man in mind, and they've been modified along the way. Now, as I said, this is not news. If you now that I've mentioned it, you can go on online and look and clarify for yourself. But a lot of drugs are made primarily, especially those made in the US, are made primarily with the white person in mind. And there are reasons for that. One including the fact that it's easier to get a white man, it's easier to get a man to do a research study than it is to get a woman. Now, of course, you have to deal with some of the changing. Women tend to have a more changing biochemistry because of one reason, of course, is because of the monthly cycles. So things change, but with men, it's more stable. That's just one of the reasons. But definitely, there are differences in treatment, and I agree with you, Dr. King. More and more Black doctors are coming to the front and beginning to talk about these things and beginning to raise their voice. But in my opinion, it is certainly not enough. If you remember in our last talk, I told you about my friend who's from Nigeria, and he moved to a new city, and he wanted to have his annual tests. And he searched diligently for a Black doctor, a Black male doctor who can understand him as a Black male doctor himself, and do the tests that are unique, that should be done with the Black male in mind. And I asked him, and we're going to come to this in mind very soon. I asked him, I said, did you talk about vitamin D? Did you check the vitamin D levels? And he said, no, they didn't even talk about vitamin D at all. To me, that's almost criminal, because, and we're going to get to it, Black people are deficient in vitamin D, and vitamin D addresses a whole bunch of stuff, including cancer. And like I said, we'll get to that. So it's important that we the Black doctors and Black healthcare professionals beginning to think about this and talk about this and educate their patients more effectively about this. Okay. So, and another thing I want to talk about breast cancer with regards to Black women is this, Dr. King. When I was a resident doing oncology, radiation oncology back in Nigeria, my boss told me this. He said, what they found out is that if a Black woman has cancer and she's successfully treated, he strongly urges them not to have a child, not to get pregnant again, because what they found out is that if she does get pregnant, the cancer comes back with a vengeance, and it's much harder to treat then. This doesn't happen among white people. They don't have that same issue. But that's just one of the.
That's crazy. Wow. I never heard that. Okay.
Cancer treatment is equally successful for all races. Okay, I'm just going to skip this. I don't want to, it's sometimes when I'm talking about this, Dr. King, I feel a little like I feel a little uneasy because there's a lot of bad news, it seems like, but hopefully we'll start talking about good news very soon. All right, so this is another statistic. I think we've already talked about that. This one talks about the survival rate. It's worse. It also measures Nigeria here. And of course, these slides can be made available. Let me skip this. African Americans have the highest death rate and shortest survival of any racial and ethnic group in the US for most cancers. Okay, let's go to obesity. And as you know, obesity, being overweight, can drive a lot of problems, not just cancers and not just heart disease, but other problems as well. Again, we Black people tend to have higher rates, but it's worse among women. And it's worse than men and worse than white women. So, and that needs to be emphasized too. What can be done? How can we reduce or mitigate the problems that arise as a result of being overweight or being obese? These are things we need to look out for. And here's the big one: fibroids. As I mentioned before, 10 years I was in the States. I worked and I went back to Nigeria, and I could see clearly that fibroids was certainly not as big a problem amongst white people as it is among Black people. In fact, fibroids are almost unheard of. It's more of another condition called endometriosis among white people, but fibroids are a very, very big problem among Black people. I mean, it's almost like every other lady in Nigeria has a fibroid, especially when you hit the age of 40. He says Black women are 3 times more likely than women of other races to get fibroids, according to the DHS. Here's another one: premature, preterm deliveries and other complications at birth. Big problem, big problem. We know about preterm deliveries. We also know that even after the delivery of the child, there's a risk of what is known as eclampsia, preeclampsia, and having diabetes, what is known as gestational diabetes. It seems that things are not as well regulated as a result of the pregnancy, and the complications are more likely to occur in Black women than in white women. And I think it says here, okay, I'm going to get to talk about vitamin D deficiency very soon. Obviously, mental health concerns, and I think, and this is a general thing, Dr. King. It's not just a Black women and not just Black women now, but we Blacks in general tend not to want to go to seek help for mental health, psychiatric conditions, or psychological conditions as our white counterparts do. It's a lot worse in Africa, I can tell you that. In Nigeria, absolutely not. I mean, when we have international organizations, when we have expatriates, what we call expatriates, white people coming to work in Nigeria, and we have the psychiatrist, the mental health office. The Black Nigerians never go see the mental health physician or the psychiatrist or psychologist. The white people are going in at will, but the Black people, no, they don't want to be seen to be consulting with Black people. So maybe something really deep in our genes or deep in our culture or in our psyche, we don't like doing it. But we tend to have greater issues. We just have a better way of, I guess we have a better way of hiding these things, Dr. King, than white people do. And so it is a big problem. So enough of the bad news. Let's talk about the good news. What can be done? And in my opinion, Dr. King, I think there are some very, very simple things that can be done and can be instituted as early in life as possible. And that's why it's so important that we educate our young women, our ladies, the young girls as quickly as possible, so that they can grow up with these lifestyle health habits. Make sense?
Yes.
So at this point, I just want to say this is not to replace your medical doctors, your medical professionals' advice. These are primarily tips, health tips that we have gleaned through years and years and years. It's going to be 25 years, Dr. King, that I've been a doctor. So and I've been in several different environments.
Well, you're not even 25 yet, right? Just kidding.
Thank you. I love you.
Okay.
So there's been a lot, and I'm deeply interested in health education and how to empower people with health so that they can make the right decisions and take the right actions, especially our own people, Black people, because I think there's a huge gap there, and I applaud you for doing what you're doing. Back in Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria has actually given us a mandate and authorized us to share information, but also to treat using our approach, which I term the building strength approach. And it comes down to strengthening your body. I don't like the word prevention as much, Because when you're talking about prevention, you're talking about, well, it's targeted. You're looking at more, you want to prevent heart disease, or you want to prevent cancer, or you want to prevent a psychiatric problem, or you want to prevent premature birth, whatever. And it's all targeted. But once you're talking about building strength, you're looking at the human being as a whole. You want to strengthen, help the human being, your body, your brain, your mind, your spirit function more effectively. And that's, once you're stronger as a human being, you are more likely to not to you're less likely, let me put it that way, to fall prey to many of these diseases that seem to affect a lot of us. So the goal should be strengthening your body, strengthening your mind, strengthening your spirit, strengthening the things that make you you. And but if you do have those problems, or any of those problems, God forbid, if you do have them, at least you will know what to do, and you're less likely going to become a statistic, less likely going to die from these conditions if you already knew what to do, even if you have a thing. So I like talking about what is known as the laws of life, And basically, in a nutshell, it just basically says the quality of your life, the quality of your health depends on 7 things. And these are things that you do every single day. These are not new things. I'm not trying to tell you to go to the mountain, going on top of the mountain and start meditating. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about you doing anything different from what you're doing already. It's really a question of doing these things with more knowledge and with more accuracy and with more intention, so that you do the right things and avoid doing the wrong things. I'm going to focus now on number 4, which are the foods and drinks you ingest, because everybody eats something at least 3 times a day, well, maybe twice a day in the civilized world. In Africa, maybe once a day, but everybody puts something in their mouth. And so and probably in another talk, we'll talk about the laws of life, but let's just talk about the food you eat. I like this quote. It says, "It is not only what you eat that's killing you, it's what you do not eat." It's not what you eat that's killing you, it's what you do not eat. And we can go on for days talking about what you're eating that's affecting your health, like fried stuff, processed foods, taking too much sugar, alcohol, just drinking all that stuff that you shouldn't be drinking, or you shouldn't be taking as much of. And we can go on for a lifetime talking about these things. But I think we need to talk about the targeted things that you should be taking. Very, very specific things that you should be taking that will significantly affect your biochemistry and affect your body, so your body can get strong. So we're going to talk about them in a few minutes, but I would be remiss if I don't mention this particular quote as well. The human body heals itself. The human body heals itself, which presupposes that the human body is damaged every day. The human body is affected every day. So the human body heals itself, and proper nutrition provides it with the resources. Dr. King say resources.
Resources.
Resources. Let's get some church going on here.
Resources. I hear you. Okay, Reverend.
That's right. The resources it requires to accomplish that task. Again, it presupposes, and this is absolutely true, from the day you're born into this environment, you are under attack. Your cells are under attack. Your brain is under attack. The food you take, some of it can cause damage. The drinks, what you drink, whatever, it doesn't matter what you do. The air you breathe, just simply existing in this world, you're going to be under attack. And this does not, we haven't even talking about the injuries and the diseases that happen. So all those things will cause more damage to your body, and your body has to heal and recover from these things. You don't think about it, but your body has to. And the way it does that is by using the resources, the raw materials that you get from food to be able to repair those things. So if you don't present your body with the right raw materials, if you don't present your body with the right building blocks, so the body can do what it needs to do, you're going to keep falling further and further and further behind. And that's why some people die before their time, because their bodies simply weren't given the tools, and they got overwhelmed. They fell so far behind that they just couldn't keep up again. So it's important that we give our bodies, and the way we give our bodies the right things is by knowing what to give them. COVID-19 has taught us a lot of things, and I think it's brought a lot of things to the front, because we now have seen that the people who die from COVID-19, or who have the more aggressive forms, or the more severe forms of COVID-19, have certain factors. Obviously, age is a risk factor for every disease known to man. The older you get, the more likely you're going to have it. If you're obese, your body produces chemicals which make your body inflamed. We can talk about that in the next course. But inflammation is one of the underlying things for disease, and certainly for COVID-19, to get it fixed on your body. Hypertension and cardiovascular disease, diabetes. You see that many of these, in fact, the only advantage Black women have in this whole thing is that males tend to have more COVID-19 severity than women do. In fact, much, much more. So that's the advantage. Of course, blood group and blood group is a different thing. But if you're Black, you're more likely to have a more severe form of COVID-19. So why is this so?
Wait a minute, before you go, what's the standard blood type? Is that A?
Yes, so A tend to have the more severe form of COVID-19.
No, I'm asking you, what blood type do most people have? The majority of people.
It's spread across A, B, and O. It's spread across those four. So it's not like one, there's no standard. Everybody has different, people have different blood groups depending on what their parents gave them.
Okay. I thought there was a one that was more prevalent than another one.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. What they're finding out, and they've done study after study, again, we're going to do a different talk on vitamin D3, is what they're finding out is that those people with the lowest amounts of vitamin D3 in their bodies are those who are more susceptible to the more severe forms of COVID-19, and those who are more likely to die. And they've done tests. They've done the study in Sweden. They've done the study in Israel. They've done it in some parts of Africa. They've certainly done it in the UK and the US. Those who have lowest vitamin D3 levels tend to have the worst kinds. So I like this quote here, because this is by somebody who was in the FDA, a medical doctor herself. And she's pointing out what I said earlier. She said that it's not enough. And I'm going to bring all this all together. It's not enough to just say that it's socioeconomic problems that are making Black people have more of these diseases. That it's not enough. And then later on, I think she went on and talked about vitamin D, that there seems to be some underlying conditions that make Black people more susceptible to certain diseases than white people. And one of the things she pointed to was vitamin D3. And there have been lots of studies. Now that you know this, you can go online and find out for yourself, study for yourself, and see if what I'm saying is true or not. You may end up saving a life. Again, I showed you this slide earlier on that says that Black people are more susceptible to certain conditions. This is the exact same slide, that those who have vitamin D3 deficiencies are more susceptible to, and it lists the cancers and heart disease and diabetes and so on and so forth. Again, they're seeing the problem over and over again, that if you are deficient in vitamin D3, you are going to be susceptible to a lot of these conditions. And so these are some of the things that will make you more deficient in vitamin D. I mentioned overweight. If you have darker skin, this is a big problem. If you live in the cold regions, if you live in the northern latitude, I think one of the reasons why we Black people in Africa are not dying as much from COVID-19 is, I think, because our vitamin D3 levels are much higher in Africa, because we have more sun and we don't always have air conditioners in our cars or in our offices or in our homes. We're in the sun a lot. Another reason is that we're younger as well. We have a much younger population. I think half of the population of West Africa is below 50, which is, of course, quite different in the US.
Wait a minute, wait. You're a vegetarian or vegan? What does that have to do with anything? Because you're not getting protein? What is that?
Yeah, so this is a good thing you pointed out too. Well, if you're not, if vitamin D can be gotten from foods that have meat or eggs or dairy or milk. So if you're not taking those things, you're going to be deficient in vitamin D, especially if you're not taking those things and you're out in the sun. And you're not out in the sun, excuse me.
Wow, I never knew that.
Vitamin D, there's a lot to be said about it. Again, I'm shocked that more isn't being
Wait a
said.
minute, go back to that slide. I want to look at, you
Yeah.
have.
Dr. King, you're muted.
Yeah, my screen went out for a minute. Sorry about that.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we could spend some time on each of them, but for the sake, because we're talking about.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask about the stomach issues. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, yeah. So stomach issues, again, if your health and if your digestive system isn't working like it should, and it's not just about the stomach, it's about your intestines as well. You need to be able to absorb vitamin D from the gut. And if your gut, the lining of your gut is unhealthy, your stomach is unhealthy, if you're not producing enough acid to digest your food, you will not be able to absorb not just vitamin D, but other nutrients as well. So you will be deficient in vitamin D.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. If you're not convinced at all about vitamin D, if you're not convinced, I think this should convince you. So they did a test between mice, two pups of the same mother. So you can see at the top, yeah, almost identical. They look pretty much the same. And the one on the left, what they did was that they found a way to make it super deficient in vitamin D. That's made it, what it is that they knocked out its vitamin D receptor, so it could not absorb vitamin D. The one on the right was normal. So after a few months, I believe this is 4 months. 4 months later, you can see clearly the difference. The pup that did not have enough vitamin D, you can see everything about him or her. Skin is shriveled up, doesn't have much hair. It looks sickly. The one on the right still looks as healthy as it was before. If this doesn't convince you, Dr. King, I don't know what will. Because this is super convincing, and you can see why this is so important. Of course, it's not just about vitamin D3 alone. There are other things, and remember, it's D3, not D2. D2 is what doctors prescribe. D3 is more natural. D3 is more bioavailable. It's easily absorbed and used by the body, and there's less chance of toxicity if you use D3 as opposed to if you use D2. Very, very important. But think about it. If you are deficient in D3 from an early age, you can see, I remember I talked about you falling further and further behind. If you're deficient in vitamin D3, let's say from the age of 10, by the time you're 20, as that slide showed, you are already beginning to see damages in the blood vessels, because one of the things that vitamin D3 does is that it's very important for a healthy blood vessel. As a matter of fact, I think the slide should be here. I think I'll talk about, okay. I'm going to go back and then I should have put that slide. But as a matter of fact, D3 controls over 10% of all the genes in your body. It regulates over 10%. So that's close to, we have about 20,000 genes, over 2,000 genes are controlled by, that's one vitamin. And it's really not a vitamin, it's actually a chemical. It's like a hormone. It controls a lot of things, including activities in the brain. It controls the muscles and the muscle development, and also bone development. We've always known vitamin D3 and the bones, but we didn't know that it also control the immune system. It also controls the cardiovascular system. It controls even the hormones to some degree. It controls a lot of these things. So if you're talking about regaining or maintaining your health, you cannot do that effectively without taking vitamin D3 as well. So I've talked about the problem. The problem I have with prevention. You do not. It's not enough just to say, well, we're preventing heart disease. You can prevent heart disease and get cancer, or you can prevent cancer and get heart disease, or you can have another problem. What you want to do is understand the principles that make your brain and body and mind and spirit strong. Cannot overemphasize that. And probably in another talk, we'll talk about the building strength approach. There are about 12 systems in your body. So you know the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, about 12 or 13. The three systems that control all the others are the nervous system, which is right up here in purple, or is this lilac, maybe lilac. The nervous system, the endocrine system, which are your hormones, and of course the immune system, which like 25% of your cells are in the immune system. If we're talking about strengthening the body, we're talking about building strength. You cannot really strengthen your body if you don't focus on the three most important systems. And therefore, I always try to show this picture to show this is where we want to start. We want to start taking nutrients that strengthen the brain. We want to start taking nutrients that strengthen the endocrine system. We want to take nutrients that strengthen the immune system. Again, vitamin D3 does all three. But in my opinion, it's not enough. There are other things that we need to do. So here are my recommendations for strengthening women's health. You want to strengthen your immune system. Your immune system controls so many things, so many things. If your immune system is deficient, you might get cancer. If your immune system is out of whack, if it's too hyperactive, you could end up having an autoimmune disease like diabetes type 2. Or worse, if you have a child, if you're pregnant, you could end up having a child with autism, believe it or not. Because there are some things that can trigger the immune system in the mother that can affect the child and damage or cause dysfunction in the child's brain or gut. Another talk for another time. You want to ensure that your blood flow, you take nutrients that improve blood flow. Again, I think we've emphasized the fact that women, black women in particular, have problems with cardiovascular blood flow. And that's why they have strokes more than any other demographic. So there are certain supplements that improve blood flow to the brain and the gut. Vitamin D3 again does that, but in my opinion, it's not enough. You have to build upon that. And you got to do things that will strengthen the endocrine system. A lot of things like cancers, especially breast cancer, is a result of dysfunction or imbalance in the hormones in the body. Even ovarian cancer and the other cancer. So, and like we know, women's, because of the cycles, because of the monthly cycles, they tend, it's easier to knock things off balance and if they're stable. But you've got to have the cycles to be a woman, right? Excuse me, I didn't mean it that way. You've got to, for normal health, anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So it's important that you take a nutrient that helps to maintain and keep the endocrine system healthy. Vitamin D3 also does that, but it's not enough. So there's a few other things I would certainly mention. These are basic things. You need vitamin D, you need vitamin C. For those three things I just mentioned. You also need to take more fiber. This seems so simple. It seems so fundamental. And you may be thinking to yourself, what does that have to do with cancer, for instance? It has a lot to do with cancer. It has a lot to do with other things, because fiber is one of the most important things for your digestive system. One of the most important things for your digestive system. The healthier, it helps to keep your digestive system clean, healthy, and functional. Most of us don't take nearly enough fiber to be healthy. Not even close. The recommendation is about 30 to 35 grams a day for women, and probably more than that for men, as much as 40 grams a day. So what I do—
Are you saying supplements will work, or do you have to eat, like, I know they want you to eat like a ton of vegetables and a ton of fruit. Well, if you don't do that, are you saying supplements will work?
Supplements are, shall we say, a poor substitute, because there's nothing beats healthy food that's grown in a farm in your backyard, that's not processed, that's not, sprayed with chemicals and toxins. If you can get that, the farmer's market is fantastic and all that. But most people, in my experience, simply don't have access to that on a daily basis. So yes, I say use your supplements to ensure that you cover those bases. And I take this is a particular brand that I always take from Whole Foods, which has worked very well for me and has worked very well for my patients. But the point
What is that? What is that?
You want me to say the brand?
No, I didn't understand what you said you took.
I take a specific brand of fiber from Whole Foods.
Oh, okay. Is it something that you can share or not?
It depends on you. I can share it. It's if you want me to share it.
Well, yeah.
Okay, it's called 365 psyllium husk flakes. You have it right there.
Well, you have it right there. Where do you get that? Through your
Whole Foods.
At Whole Foods?
Yep.
Okay.
Trust me. I mean, one of the advantages I have is that I've spent a lot of time searching for. I mean, it's one thing to say, well, take vitamin D. It's another thing to say, okay, take this particular brand, fiber, take that particular brand of this or that particular brand of that. So what we've been able to do is find out the ones that are most effective. And I can tell you for a fact, after trying a lot of different kinds of fiber, this has been the one that has been.
All right. There's something that you said earlier. I wanted to ask about Black woman and childbirth. Have you found that gestational diabetes tends to women who have that have a higher risk of having children with autism?
I haven't heard in particular with regards to gestational diabetes. I know with infections and low vitamin D3, but here's the thing: if there's an illness in the mother, a chronic illness or any kind of issue that they're dealing with, it's best you have that under control, because you have a greater chance of affecting the brain and development of the development of the child's brain, but not specifically with gestational diabetes. I've not heard of that. What
about thyroid? And that's been pretty prevalent in African American women too.
Really? Thank you for letting me know that. I should have pointed that out to you, but I have not heard with regards to specifically with regards to thyroid and autism.
That's something you might want to look at.
Thank you. I will. I'll definitely look more into that for sure.
Okay.
So definitely, I'm very big on supplements. I'm very big on having the right kind of supplements because, like I said, from my experience, most people simply don't have the time, nor the willpower, nor the discipline to keep that up day in, day out, of eating the right foods. And remember, the recommendation now is at least 7 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day.
And that's pretty much not happening. So I know I've heard it, like 2 gallons of water and all that. It's just not realistic.
Let's not kid ourselves. And I really take issue with healthcare professionals insisting on it. Most people can't do that. I travel a lot myself, so I take a bag of supplements. So just to cover, like I said, it's a poor substitute, but at least it's something, right? So okay, so I think I've come to the end.
Yeah, go back to your screen. Yeah, that's what you want to give your information. And so if anybody wants to contact you or any of that, so that's good.
Sure. So you can Dr. David Ajibade on all the social media platforms, and of course, website is Dr. David Ajibade, and of course, the Brain and Body Foundation.org is the website. So I am going to take this back so we can see your lovely face again.
You are hilarious. Okay, well, this has been great information, and Dr. Ajibade is going to be coming to us on a regular basis, giving information and tips to keep you healthy. And that's what we do. BWE, Black Women Empowered, is all about empowerment. So we want to make sure that you have the information that you need to be healthy, whole, and to live a long life. So, Dr. Ajibade, we thank you so much for today, as always. And we should be back soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to doing more, Dr. King. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.